Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of Citizens Fiber.
Welcome to Westmoreland Community Connections, a look at issues and happenings on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. Here now is your host, Jennifer Miele, Chief Communications Officer and Managing Director of Evangelization of the Diocese of Greensburg.
Welcome to Westmoreland Community Connections on WHJB. I'm your host, Jennifer Miele, Chief Communications Officer at the Diocese of Greensburg. I always love hosting Westmoreland Community Connections because I get the opportunity to talk to so many interesting guests who are trying to make our community better with each and every step and each and every day. My guests today are Jeff Wilson from Fund EDU LLC and Dr. Greg Bisignani. He's a Catholic school graduate, a Catholic school parent, and an advocate for funding of tuition-paid private schools. So it's nice to have you both on the show today. Thank you so much. We talk a lot about educational opportunities and missed opportunities in some terms because there isn't always funding available for individuals who want to attend a private school. We have so many underperforming school districts throughout the United States, and this is a great initiative to redirect your tax dollars to help individuals who may want to attend a private school. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Bisignani, because you're local. Tell us a little bit about your history, where you grew up, your experience with private education, and why you're such an advocate today.
I always tell people I'm so excited to be where I am and doing what I do. I mean, not too many people can say not only are they doing what they've always wanted to do, but where they want to do it. I'm a proud Westmoreland County growth development. This is my home. I grew up in outside of Irwin. I went to Hempfield for school district for 8 years, which laid a great foundation for me. And then I went to Greensburg Central Catholic, and I owe them a lot. One of the reasons I'm such an advocate for them because I don't feel I could be I would be the person I am today if it wasn't for Greensburg Central Catholic. After graduating from Greensburg Central Catholic, I went to University of Notre Dame, and then I followed up when I went to University of Pittsburgh Medical School, and I stayed there and did my orthopedic surgical residency. And for the last 20 plus years, I've been a general orthopedic surgeon practicing in Greensburg. I've been very active at Greensburg Central Catholic. I'm a graduate of Greensburg Central Catholic, as I said, a parent of 4 students. I've been the basketball coach there, the team doctor, and I think it's I want to give the same opportunity that was given to me to our current grade school and high school students. So I'm a big advocate of this program. I think it's very easy to participate and it has endless potential.
So the program that we're talking about today is the acronym EITC, which is the Educational Improvement Tax Credit. And that is essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, and certainly jump in here, Dr. Bisignani, but it's a program run through the state that you can divert some of your state tax dollars to go toward tuition at private institutions in Pennsylvania. Can you elaborate on that a little bit better than I did?
Sure. It's actually almost as simple as it says, and it's people don't believe how easy it is to participate. Now, the first thing I tell my people all the time is you're not getting out of paying your taxes. You're still paying your taxes. And now we're talking your state, Pennsylvania state taxes, not federal. And that may change someday. But for right now, it's just your state taxes. And you still pay your state taxes like you normally do. But instead of the tax dollars being directed to Harrisburg, you can direct it to a tuition paying school. And then that school, in turn, can use those tax credits or that money for tuition assistance. It's that simple. So if you pay, say, $4,000 a year in state taxes, you still pay your $4,000, but that $4,000 doesn't go to Harrisburg. It gets redirected to your school of choice, and in turn, they can use that as a scholarship for tuition students that qualify for the program. And basically, it opens the door, especially for people that otherwise may not have the financial needs to attend one of these type of schools.
Now, you have really pounded the pavement on this because I think you saw the opportunity that was available for Catholic schools, for private schools. You've been at galas, you've been all over the place speaking about this, and it's had a very good result. So over the last few years, you've been able to aggregate a number of participants in this program to the tune of close to $2 million.
I'm really proud to work with people like Jeff and some of the other people that make this possible, and they make it so easy. Basically, it's is exactly what it is. We try to educate people on the what's available out there. A lot of people have never heard of this program, even though it's been around since 2001. About 2014, initially was started with just businesses, and businesses could use their tax dollars for this program. Around 2014, there were some changes in the laws that made it available for people to use their individual tax dollars for this program. So if basically, almost without exception, if you pay tax dollars, if you earn any sort of income that generates state taxes, then you are able to participate in this program. And it's a program that's really schools have taken big advantages of. Jeff can talk to this. We're a little bit prejudiced because the eastern part of our state in Philadelphia has captured much more of this program than our part of the state, but we want to get our piece of the pie. But it's available. It's a wonderful program. It gives great opportunity to kids that otherwise wouldn't have this opportunity.
That's excellent. So we'll bring in Jeff Wilson from Fund EDU LLC. So Jeff, your job is to help these private schools execute on the ability to divert some of these tax dollars to education. And so how do you talk to business owners and individuals about this?
Yeah, so first of all, they just dovetailing a little bit on what Dr. Bisignani said about the need in our area and about our ability to participate in the program. One of the things that he didn't mention, while it is easy to pledge into the program and redirect your tax dollars away from Harrisburg locally, the program is small in terms of state programs. It currently sits at $110 million that go toward students statewide. And while that may sound like a lot of money, there are hundreds of schools, in Pennsylvania, and they're all vying for the same pot of money. So we do have to, advocate pretty robustly in our area. So I always say, Philadelphia is obviously it's a bigger area, and they've got some educational issues with their public school system there, whereby a lot of people want to go to their private schools. The city just has its challenges over there, so they get more of it, and it's way more people. It's huge. We often in our area we forget how big Philadelphia is, and so yes, they get more. They should get more, but also, we shouldn't get crowded completely out of the program. And that was increasingly kind of happening in our area before we jumped in and said, hey, we have a lot of these same issues in our area that Philadelphia has, and we should also be able to participate and have access to the program. But yeah, the credits do go, they all go. It's 100% subscribed, as the state likes to call it. The issue is where do these tax credits, where do they go? And it's a first come, first serve program. So if Philadelphia wanted to take every dollar of the tax credits that are available, they could do that. And so, but we've done a pretty good job, I think, for the Greensburg area, for Westmoreland County, to have more of those dollars spent, taxes paid in our area than, say, 4 or 5 years ago when we weren't as involved and active over here. And so, so what we generally depend on in terms of finding new businesses to talk to, finding sometimes even high income earning parents that maybe they're traditionally employed. They want to participate in the program. They would rather do that than send their tax dollars to Harrisburg. Usually it comes from the schools themselves. Each school, whether they're Catholic or otherwise, each school is a community, and each school community has a network. And particularly in the private school world, fundraising just is part of what you're doing. You're always trying to make it more affordable for students, like the public schools. costs are always rising. We're always trying to stay above water and above inflation. And, you want to have good teachers and you want to have good infrastructure in your buildings. There's a lot of regulatory issues with the school that cost money, and you want to have sports. And, this is, it's a lot. And, Dr. Bisignani does a lot of work with Greensburg Central Catholic, but it's all the schools, so I feel like we're always, fundraising or selling something and donating and trying to keep it going. So, each school really helps us to network out into the community to, hey, who are your big corporate donors? In the cases of sometimes private high schools have corporate donors or just large business donors, right down to somebody who just has a small tax bill and says, yeah, you know what, I went to St. Bernard School up in Indiana, and that's my home. Now I live in Pittsburgh, but I still really care about that area. And if I'm going to pay taxes, I'd much rather, have a student who can't afford the tuition to be able to use some of my tax dollars to be able to go to school. And so that's, really keeping with the spirit of the program. And, to a certain extent, it's self-regulatory in terms of the schools who deliver the best for their students and for their communities are going to have the most rabid fans, and they're going to have the most support from their communities. And so, schools that do better are also going to do better in this tax credit program, so that's a way of, kind of keeping it authentic to the intentions of the program. So, yeah, I mean, I know that's a long-winded ramble, but it really comes from each school community, and they all have their communities. And that's where we start to talk to businesses and donors.
And I'm sure part of the pitch is that the money doesn't just go to anyone. It goes to fund tuition for individuals with a need. Is that the right way to say it?
That's right. So there are strict income guidelines in order to receive a scholarship through the program. So I think in Pennsylvania, when this program was started in 2001, I think probably at that time, you're looking at increasingly the private school system, the school choice system was in a situation where it was becoming increasingly harder to gain access to that. So it was going in the direction of your private school, your private education system becoming more elite rather than what it's always been certainly in the Catholic sense is could we educate the poor, to educate everybody. And so people in the middle class have access to it. And so that's the spirit of the program. It depends how many, what levels those are in terms of where you would qualify to receive a scholarship. They vary depending on how many kids you have in the program. And so, if you have 4 kids in private schools, you're paying for a Catholic school or a private school and maybe a kid in college, if you have that big of a family, it gets pretty heavy pretty quick. And so, this program is designed particularly for the families that aren't elites to also be able to have that option, so that could be in people that maybe you want to pray in school, you want your kids to go through a traditional religious affiliation, so this program supports that. Or it could be your child just does better in a smaller class size. And so you want to, have that option available. Lots of reasons. I mean, somebody gets bullied in a school and they want to switch schools. This program can help them to have access to those opportunities. And so, it's a limited program. It's it's not every tax dollar, like it is. Maybe some other states I think are a lot more generous with it than in Pennsylvania, but it's effective. I see it as a very, very effective way to allow that to happen. We have kids in Greensburg who, maybe they would want to go to GCC, but that tuition, they want to get help with that. So this allows them to do that.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to WHJB and Westmoreland Community Connections. Today, we're talking about the Educational Improvement Tax Credit. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. If you have a suggestion for a topic, or if your nonprofit organization would like to be featured on this program, call us during regular business hours at 724-216-1200.
Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of Citizens Fiber.
Welcome back to WHJB. You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections. I'm your host, Jennifer Miele. Joining me today are two special guests who are talking about the Educational Improvement Tax Credit. That's a way for businesses and individuals to divert some of their state tax dollars to helping to pay for tuition for private schools throughout Pennsylvania. Joining me today is Jeff Wilson from Fund EDU LLC and Dr. Greg Bisignani. He's a Catholic school graduate, a Catholic school parent, and an advocate for funding of tuition-paying private schools. So we thank you both for joining us today. We've heard a lot about how the Educational Improvement Tax Credit, the acronym EITC, can help students who otherwise may not be able to afford a private education, despite where they live or despite what they may want to do. This could provide that opportunity for them to do that. And it's a program run through the state, but a very competitive one. And I know Dr. Bisignani is always out pounding the pavement, trying to grow interest in this program. So far, his success is immense. $2 million available just here in Western Pennsylvania. So that is amazing that you're able to do that. Dr. Bisignani, can you share with us any stories or any examples? You must have something that motivates you to continue to do this, and you must be getting good feedback from people who you're helping to receive that education.
I mean, I have plenty of stories and examples. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is I remember one parent who couldn't participate in the EITC program from a financial standpoint, but her child was a benefit of it. She was a grade school student who was a very, very good student. Actually, goal was to go to medical school one day, and all they wanted was the best for their daughter. And they're a very strong Catholic faith, and they looked into going to Greensburg Central Catholic, and there was just no way that they could financially afford it. Before this program, they probably would have not been able to attend Greensburg Central Catholic. With this program and the tuition assistance that was made available, they were able to get significant funding. Their daughter was able to go to Greensburg Central, and she's currently a student there, a straight A student, and hopefully someday going to be able to go on to college and medical school. And every time I see this parent, she comes up to me and gives me a big hug and just wants to break down and cry because of what was made available. And to me, that's the essence of the program. I mean, I have other examples on the other side of the scale where people just pay so much tax dollars and they feel like they have no control over where that money goes. And, they don't even maybe have an allegiance to a certain school, but they just want to be able to have some control of what their tax dollars do, and subsequently makes them feel good that they know that they are helping someone like this student, this example that I give. So, me personally, I've been given so much by my community. And that's why I'm so loyal to Greensburg Central Catholic, to develop me into the person I am and to be able to do what I do because of them. And I want to be able to give that same back to other students and hopefully other community leaders in the future. So to me, that's what motivates me the most.
That's amazing. Now, one of the sort of roadblocks, people may be hearing this and they're on board and yes, I want to do this. And yes, I'm going to call my accountant. And there is sort of a re-education process that's been going on with accountants over the last few years, because wasn't this program first developed for businesses and individuals could not opt into it? But since then, that has changed. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, that's actually been a big change. When the program first started in 2001, it was only businesses that paid tax dollars to Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And there's not that many people that have their business, or, now you're talking big businesses, or Giant Eagles, or, PNC Bank. In 2014, it was changed that now individuals can use their individual tax dollars. And that certainly opened up the pool and availability of people that we could go after to participate in this program. And it's an education. People don't understand how easy it is, or don't understand that they have a say in how their tax dollars can be spent. So it does take a conversation, and that's where Jeff comes in with his expertise. And we almost have to meet individually with either accountants or potential participants, or both, before they get the confidence that, hey, this really works. I mean, me personally, I've been involved in the program for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's as easy as that. You get a tax credit back for the amount of your tax dollars, but the school gets 100%, and it can go to any school. I mean, you can any school in Pennsylvania. So you could be a resident of Westmoreland County and direct to Philadelphia or to Erie, and vice versa. So it's not just what region you're in where that school has to be beneficial. So that's why we reach out to alumni and people that are really like back to school and try to educate them in this program, because they're even a little bit more motivated to get involved. But I have many of people that I've talked to that are participants or colleagues that have no relationship to any specific school, but they just want to have that good feeling that they're helping out and they have a say with where their tax dollars are spent.
Right. And sometimes this is sort of a good educational interview, because when you approach your accountant, and if your accountant doesn't have the information or doesn't know what direction to take, that's where I guess Jeff would come in. Right, Jeff?
Right. And so we do spend a lot of time. So it's a tax credit. So that typically involves accountants. And so, in this day and age, almost everybody has an accountant, at least the people we run into, they're all, if it's not a business who has a chief accounting officer in the company and also an outside accountant, even, income earners, just generally speaking, will have accountants. It's become pretty complicated. So yeah, tax credits are always an accountant's kind of an accountant's world. And, even more broadly, tax credits generally, question comes up, well, why do they do it this way? And so there are, and if you really looked into it, I mean, there are hundreds of different kinds of tax credits. And so the spirit of a tax credit is the government says, hey, here's a problem. We want you guys to fix it locally. And here's a tax credit. You can do it up there. Don't even send the money to Washington, so it's, or Harrisburg. It's like, don't even send us the money. Just show us, use your accountants to keep it honest and show us that you fixed the problem or you put money in that direction. And, just that's fine. So this is, there are green credits. You'll hear about all kinds of R&D tax credits. This is what this is. And so, hey, you need research and development done in Indiana County. You know what? Here's a little bucket of tax credits. Go ahead and fix your own problems. That's the spirit of a tax credit. So yeah, it always involves the accounting world. And so we spend a lot of time on the phones with company controllers, with accountants, with CPAs. Usually they've heard of it, they've heard about the program. It's been around a while, but keeping even some of the best accountants up to speed with all the changes, like a lot of state programs, it changes almost every single year. And so we're always kind of tap dancing on thin ice to get things figured out quickly, get it out to everybody who's in the program, explain the changes. A lot of times that involves the accountants, twice in every year.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time.
It almost has to be a perfect storm, because the credits have to be available. The people have to be willing. The paperwork has to be filled out. The accountant has to know what they're doing. I mean, this is a huge undertaking, to be able to take advantage of this. And you guys have really excelled at that. I mean, that is a delicate dance that you have to do. So, I mean, are the credits available now?
Yeah, actually, we today, as I talk, it's the end of March, and we actually have credits that are available right now to be used in what's called a spring round. And so the way we operate is it's an ongoing process. So we're always talking to people, because let's say if this window closes and then they aren't available, it'll reopen. But in that period of time, you're still talking to people. So, I have some other people who help advocate for the program, and I tell them, we're in the business of right now. So if they can pledge their thing right now, no matter when that is, just we have to get them to that point. So what would it take them to think about, signing up right now? And so it could be, you might have to talk to their accountant. You might have, they must have talked to their other business partners to get them to understand it enough to enroll in the program. And you're trying to beat the larger markets, because Philadelphia will have donors who come in who sold a bunch of businesses and they'll owe $500,000, and so the way the program is set, it's first come, first serve. So whether you got your $5,000 donor in for Queen of Angels in Irwin, or they got their $500,000 donor in for, school on the main line, or whichever school, that's it. That's they get their 500,000 and maybe your 5,000 doesn't get in because it's limited. Now, we do try to advocate with the state, and the state hasn't grown the program, I think, in 2 cycles now, in 2 budgets. We need to start advocating even with the state that they expand the program. If they were even to add $5 million to the program, or $10 million, I mean, that's a huge difference for a program that's what the state calls oversubscribed. So that means literally for every tax credit that is issued, there is at least 2 taxpayers who want them. So it's very, very competitive. And so, one of the messages for the people out there is, call your state representative and say, hey, do you really understand this EITC program and how important it is to students in our area to make sure that there are educational options? It's not open-ended. It's not, in a sense, even competing against the public school system. We have some very, very good public schools in our area, but, it's some people just have other reasons why they would want to send their children to a private school, or at least have that option available for them. And if they can't afford it, that's what this program is all about. So yeah, any incremental growth that we can add to the program, and even, they could double the program and it would be gone very quickly. There's that much demand. In Philadelphia, their schools are historically underperforming, and so but again, we have those same issues, in our region outside of Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh and Erie and Johnstown and some of these other areas where there's a lot of demand for people who want to have educational options available, and you might be in a lower income area or poor area, and so that's what this program is all about. And so where we do well with our public schools, that's great. We should continue to fund them, and they get a lot of money. You don't realize until you start working with private schools, how much money the public schools do have, for as much as we hear
compared to what it is.
That they always need more money. They get a lot of money, and so
we have about a minute left. Dr. Bisignani, just to close things out, I just wanted to ask, if people are interested in getting involved, where do they call? What's the website? How do they get in contact?
There's several different ways to get involved. The first thing is just education. And, when you say tax credit, that's a dirty 3-letter word. People get nervous and they usually don't feel comfortable doing anything unless they talk to their accountant. But to get involved, people like me, I'd be more than glad to talk to anybody about the program. A lot of the schools have specific employees that are specialized in the program if you're interested in a specific school, or you call someone like Jeff Wilson, and Jeff can get you into the program and educated on the program. So it's really more about just getting the education, learning about it, and then accessing someone like Jeff that has access to the credits to get you into the program.
Jeff, give us your email address for the people at home.
Yep. So my email is Jeff, Jeff, at fundedullc.com. And I'll repeat that very quickly here. Again, it's Jeff, Jeff, at fundedullc.com.
Thank you both for joining us to talk about the Educational Improvement Tax Credit, and thank you for listening to WHJB and Westmoreland Community Connections.
This has been Westmoreland Community Connections, a look at issues and happenings in and around Westmoreland County. Join us again next week on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB.
Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of Citizens Fiber.